A very warm welcome to all the faculty, colleagues and my dear students who have logged in from different parts of the state to participate in this webinar. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be able to share my thoughts and experiences on today's topic. So the topic, as you can see for today, is clinical research in medical institutes in India and why there is an urgent need to develop a new outlook, especially in the post-COVID era that we are living in. So the goal of today's presentation is twofold. We are going to seek answers together on some very basic yet pressing questions about clinical research, and together we will try to understand as to what the current status of clinical research is in our country and what can we all do together to take it to the next level. So today's presentation is not intended to be a lecture on either clinical research or COVID-19. However, it is basically a brainstorming session where together we will try to look at some of the most important clinical research questions. So what you see in front of your screen now is the agenda for today's session, and we have a few basic questions that we are going to be looking at, starting with, for example, why and where does India lag in clinical research, and what can we do to improve research in our medical institutes? How do we generate a research idea or a hypothesis? That is one of the most challenging parts of conducting clinical research. And once we have done that, what is the way to get started? We will also talk about the basic resources we need for research and how we can leverage the existing resources that we all have access to in our respective institutes. We will end the session with a focus on two more questions which are very commonly asked amongst ourselves. What should be the end goal of my research? And if I do research, how is it going to benefit me and my nation? So I would like to start today by a brief introduction on COVID-19 and what is the status of COVID-19 research in our country. As we all know, we are in the middle of a pandemic which we know as COVID-19. In the middle of February, WHO announced a new name for the new coronavirus disease, COVID-19, and it is caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2 as we know it. Somewhere in early to mid-March, COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. Now let's look at some of the statistics here. And these were pulled off yesterday on 9th June. If you look at the total number of reported cases across the globe, it is in excess of 70 lakhs, and India accounts for approximately 2.6 lakhs of those cases. And currently it is ranked number 6th in the world. I think the nations ahead of us are US, Brazil, Russia, UK and Spain. However, based on some reports, it is believed that the numbers in India are grossly underestimated. So officially, while we might be at 6th position, the actual numbers might be much higher, and given the growth rate that this disease is experiencing in our country, it won't be too far away in the future that we climb up a few more notches and maybe become amongst the top 2 or 3 countries to be struck by this disease. So if we look at the statistics on research, which I pulled up yesterday, on PubMed, there are in excess of 20,000 papers on COVID-19, of which India has contributed a very small fraction, just around 4%. So we can see that a big opportunity is being lost in terms of contributing new knowledge to COVID-19. Now this is the status not just for COVID-19, but clinical research in general in our country. And that is what today's talk is supposed to address. What can we do? What are the reasons why we lag behind? What can we do to take research in our country to the next level? So that brings us to the first question that we want to jointly answer. Why and where does India lag in research? What are some of the challenges that we face when it comes to clinical research in our country? And what is the end result of those challenges? I think the first and foremost is we have lack of innovative ideas and original thinking. And what that leads to is the same research topics keep on getting repeated again and again. One of the most common rationales that we use for conducting research is because X country did it, because Y country did it, therefore we should also do it. So where's the innovation in the idea? Second most common reason is the lack of interest in research per se, both in the faculty as well as students. Most of the times the faculty and students are busy with either clinical work or passing exams, and research is basically just not their main focus. Equally important, there is lack of enough research know-how amongst our faculty and students. We have not been educated in research formally. There hasn't been any formal introduction to the basics of conducting research in our institutes, which leaves a big gap in our basic research know-how. Another important reason is the dearth of clinical research consultants and specialists who we can consult to conduct high quality clinical research. If we talk about funding, although there are some research grants available, the process to apply for those grants and to finally secure funding is a long and tedious one, which discourages many people to go for research in their career. So what's the end result of all these challenges? Our research for the most part either stays unpublished or it gets published in journals which have a very low impact factor and they don't count at an international stage. So when we talk about research, India is certainly not the country that first comes to our minds, and we have to change that together. So what can we do to improve the status of clinical research in our medical institutes? First and foremost, we need to educate people, not just faculty, but also the students. We have to make some basic topics mandatory as part of students' UG and PG curriculum both. And some of those topics could be research methodology, different types of study designs, how to collect data, the basics of statistics and scientific writing. All these have to be provided to our students in the form of a formal course, even if it's a short-term course, either as part of their UG curriculum or PG or even both. At a departmental level, we have to create a bank of original research ideas which we can test over a period of time. We need to plan in advance before a UG or a PG student joins our institute. We have to allocate a research topic to our students right around the time of their joining so that they can own their topic for the rest of their academic studies at the institute. That itself is not enough. We have to continue to monitor the progress of research through regular meetings. One way to improve the quality of research in our institutes could be to set up some kind of a clinical research center or a department which will provide a single point of contact to all the faculty and students for their basic research needs. So as you can see, we need a multi-pronged approach in order to elevate the status of clinical research in our institutes. It will take a lot of collaborative effort for a long period of time before we start to see any significant results. So that brings us to our next question, which is one of the most challenging parts of conducting clinical research. How do you generate an original research idea or a hypothesis? Oftentimes we get stuck, our thinking gets frozen. We get so tempted to just pick up some topic which has already been researched previously and just do a study along similar lines. But that is not going to get us published in the best of journals. So what is the recipe or what are the ingredients that we need to consider before thinking of an innovative idea? The first is you need to have that scientific bent of mind, that scientific curiosity, that inquisitiveness, that little bit of a skepticism about the status quo, that little bit of a challenging mindset. That's what we need to be able to come up with some original thinking. Second most important aspect is you need to be aware of what is going on in your respective field. I call it external awareness. And what is the way to develop that awareness? For starters, you can identify top 2 or 3 journals in your respective field and subscribe to those, and then make it a habit to browse through the articles published in that journal, especially the ones that are in your specific area of interest. That will keep you updated about what is going on in the community, what are the gaps, and maybe that will stimulate you to think of something that has never been investigated before, and that is what we call an original or an innovative research idea. Third most important point is brainstorming or networking with your like-minded colleagues. To meet them regularly, either as part of departmental meetings or it could even be some kind of an informal meeting where you are trying to just brainstorm about different topics or ideas in your respective disciplines. You could even join research groups, societies or forums. There are a lot many options available in today's world. Whatever works best for you. So as we can see, generation of a research idea requires the right combination of scientific curiosity, external awareness and networking. Once you have a research idea in place, what is it that you need to do to get started? And this is again very logical. We are not going to focus on each and every of these aspects in a lot of detail because the time doesn't permit that. Each of these bullets that you see in front of you is worth a short course in itself, but I am just going to list these points briefly for you. Of course, once you have a good research idea in place, you have to sound it off to your colleagues, to the head of the department and make sure you have their approval in place. That's one. You have to put a small research proposal together outlining how you will be carrying out your study, the methodological aspects, all the resources that you will be needing. And then there are a lot of courses available out there that teach you how to write a research proposal. It's an art, it takes time. You have to collaborate with research methodologists and statisticians in order to do that. All of you are aware of the ethics committee or the institutional review board. Anytime we do any human or clinical research, an approval from those committees is a must. So you should prepare in advance for that as well. Once we have all of that in place, we just jump into starting to collect data randomly without any systematic data collection methodology. So data collection in itself is also a very tedious exercise and it has to be planned in advance. You cannot have part of your data collected in paper-based records, part of it electronically, and then we are trying to combine the two together. It doesn't work that way. For the most part, data collection has to be electronic and the data collection protocols have to be designed systematically to make sure that the data that is being collected is of the highest quality. The quality of the research paper is going to depend upon the quality of your analysis, and the quality of your analysis is going to depend upon the quality of your data. So the quality of the data is extremely important and it has to be designed well. And once you have everything set up, you start recruiting patients for your study. Whether it is an observational study or a clinical trial, you will have to start collecting data one way or the other. So what's the key take-home message from this slide? That research is a long process, but it makes sense to involve research methodologists and statisticians right at the start of your project and not towards the end. That will ensure that the research that you do is scientifically rigorous and worthy of a publication in a reputable journal. So this brings us to the next question. What are the resources we need to conduct research? And this is a very simplistic slide. It basically shows us the three basic ingredients we need to be able to conduct research. One, of course, is the data. There is so much data that is being collected in our medical institutes as part of routine patient care. Are we doing a good enough job of tapping into that data? The second is, of course, the manpower. For that you need the management who has to be pro-research. You need faculty, students and other staff to carry out the research activities on a day-to-day basis. And then of course you need a set of softwares, either for statistical analysis, and I have given a couple of examples here, and there is, as we all know, a huge list of softwares available out there, and it's a matter of choice. To name a few, you've got R, SAS, SPSS, Stata, and many others. Excel and Access, those are the two databases which are usually used to store all your data. Microsoft Excel is by far the most commonly used database to collect data electronically. And then I would also urge you to look into some reference or bibliography management softwares such as EndNote and Reference Manager. A lot of times we end up spending a lot of time in trying to organize our references. Sometimes our research paper can have more than 50 or even up to 100 references, and if we do it manually, we end up spending a lot of time in trying to organize those properly and as per the journal requirements. If we can spend some time to learn about these referencing softwares, we can save a lot of precious time that we currently spend on managing the reference. So no matter how big or small medical institute you are, we all have access to some resources in our respective institutes. And this slide basically tells us what can we do to leverage or optimize the resources that we have before we think about investing in new ones. The first question we need to ask is our faculty research oriented? Do they have that research bent of mind that I talked about earlier? That is the key ingredient. If that is missing, then research will just not be a priority in your institute. What's our patient volume across all departments? And for the most part, India being such a populous country, there is no dearth of patient load, no matter which specialty you are in. That's a huge plus. We just don't seem to be making the most of it. Is our management research friendly or pro-research? That is equally important. Every medical institute has its own agenda. It is important to find out and understand if the management supports the environment that is conducive to conducting research. Do we have access to libraries? Do we have subscriptions to certain journals, at least the most important ones in all therapeutic areas? Do we have the license for statistical analysis and reference management softwares? Our medical records, are they paper-based or electronic? And if they are paper-based, are we willing to go that extra mile to make them electronic, which of course is much more efficient and effective in the long run? Equally important point, do we have on board research methodologists and statisticians who can help us with our research needs? Because we as busy clinicians might not have the technical know-how which we touched upon earlier to conduct research on our own. So we need access to such specialists. Are we willing to invest in them? Can we hire them either as a full-time personnel or part-time consulting role? Do we have access to such people who can make a huge difference in the quality of the research that we will conduct? So bottom line is that no matter how big or small we are, we have some resources. We have to do the best of leveraging those efficiently, and if possible also look for ways to invest in new resources. So what should be the end goal of research? Why should we get into research? Well, if you look at it, the most important reason why we conduct research is either to contribute something new to the existing body of knowledge, or to sharpen or refine or deepen our understanding of an existing topic. But the most important aspect is that what we do about disseminating that knowledge that we have generated. We can't just keep it to ourselves. If we don't end up communicating it or publishing it, it is of no value. So the saying goes as, if you don't publish it, it means you never did it. And what are some of the ways in which you can share that knowledge? Either by submitting an abstract to a conference, which is a good start. Then if it gets accepted, you present a poster at that conference, great. But it shouldn't stop there. The most important output from any research has to be a scientific paper, which you should aim to publish in an international journal which has a reasonably good impact factor. That is how you are going to be able to communicate your results, your findings, your research with the rest of the medical and research community. So as we saw earlier, unpublished research has little value. When we think about India, we don't think about research, and that is what we need to change together. This is a question that most often crosses our mind. How is research going to benefit me? What's in it for me? What's in it for my institute? And if at all we can ask that question, what's in it for my nation? As we have already seen in the previous slides, we have got such an extensive and diverse patient base, but our contribution to the medical literature is very restricted, very limited to say the least. We looked at COVID-19 as an example, how India has only contributed a very small fraction of all the publications so far on COVID-19. We use that example to basically build a case that not enough is being done in our medical institutes as far as research is concerned. We need to change that. If we conduct high quality research, what are some of the benefits that can come to us with time? Well, I would start with professional satisfaction. Of course, you build a name and fame for yourself. We all know how people try to publish as quickly as possible to get promoted to the next level in their institutes. That is a good incentive. But we should also look to make the most of that research and try to get it in the best journals rather than just ticking a checkbox of publishing it wherever and then getting our required outcome, which is most often times a promotion to the next level. Grants. If you are well published, then you have more credibility when you apply for grants and funding. You can even get some consulting privileges. You could be an invited speaker in your respective conferences. So overall, if you conduct innovative original research, it will increase your visibility and your credibility at all levels. At a personal level, your institution also will earn a lot out of it. And then finally, as a nation, our standing in research will go up by several notches. So overall, the benefits of research cannot be overemphasized. It is going to have a positive impact at all levels. Now that we have answered all the questions that we initially displayed on the agenda slide, I would very like to quickly walk you through some of the initiatives which we at Mimar Institute have taken to further the cause of clinical research in our country. We have invested in a central research laboratory which conducts high-end research in nanomedicine, nanorobots, and oncology therapeutics. There are some high-end research facilities available as part of this lab, which you can see on your screen. As a result of this initiative, there are a lot of patents and publications that have come out, and again they are here on display for you. We also have an initiative which we have called iDoctor, which we have developed in collaboration with Persistent Technologies. It is basically an artificial intelligence based diagnosis and drug dispensing system which has the potential to diagnose 50 plus clinical conditions and then also dispense medicines accordingly. We also have invested recently in a Department of Clinical Research and Incubation Center at our institute, which consists of research scientists, core researchers, a lot of clinicians and research methodologists and statisticians. A very diverse group of people that have come together to improve the status of clinical research at our institute. So we basically serve as the one-stop shop for the research needs of all the students and faculty at Mimar. At the very last, I would like to bring your attention to a big initiative which we have recently started in the wake of COVID-19. So what we have done is we have set up a big prospective disease registry on COVID-19 where we will be collecting data prospectively on all the COVID-19 patients that get admitted to our facility. The goal is to understand their clinical characteristics and outcomes, and that will eventually help us answer a lot of interesting research questions about the disease which we currently don't know. So it is our sincere appeal for all the institutes who are participating in today's webinar to please come forward and join hands with us to make this a multi-centric initiative. I think there is a huge opportunity for us to contribute as a nation towards the fight against COVID-19. And together, if we join hands, if we integrate data across all centers, there is a huge opportunity of publishing that data in a landmark journal, and that will improve the perception of our nation in the field of clinical research. Just a few initiatives which we wanted to share with you, and with that, this talk comes to an end. Thank you very much for dialing in and taking the time to attend this